Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Well, it's increasing the amount of audience content which is put it on the social platforms and even some new social platforms which are uh, joining the space just about audio. So I think it's very important to talk about audio content, how you can embrace audio content, which advantages, which types of audio content you can bring and build. And to talk about this, I will have an amazing guest from India, Dakshin, uh, who will join me in a moment. So stay tuned because I'll be back. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Special Marketing Live Show. And today we have another amazing guest, but he will join in a few minutes because he's there on the basement. I think I'm seeing that he's finishing the cookie. I think he's watching Netflix also. And today we're going to talk about audio content. I truly believe in the power of um, audio content. I think the radios day are back because we we like to listen, and for instance we like to listen to music, we like to listen something while we are traveling, even though lately we don't travel as much. But audio content is for sure uh, a good option for you to engage with your audience, to get known, to get trust, to get authority. But to talk about this, we will have Dakshin. So if you are listening to me right now, please just let me know on which place are you located, on which platform are you watching us. If you are watching the replay, please you can say the same. I'm here watching your show on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Periscope. Let me know. Also, you can bring some more people if you find that someone may be interested in watching this. Please bring them to the show or tag them on comments or send it through a message, the link, so they can join us, and even on the replay. And also, if you have any question, any doubt, any comment to share with us, please let us know. If you are watching the replay, you can do the same, and please tag Dakshin, for instance, if you want him to uh, get ahead and answer you. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see if Dakshin already finished the cookie. Let's see. Hello, Dakshin, how are
Hello,
you?
Marco. Marco, can I have some more of those cookies, please? It's absolutely delicious.
Well, it's an ancient recipe from our family. I can send it to you. So,
How are you doing, Marco?
I'm very good. Thank you, Dakshin, for being here. Hope you're doing fine. Also, it's a pleasure. It's a kind of nonstop interaction with us because we yesterday we were recording the podcast, and today we are here to talk about audio content, which is an amazing way of creating content and sharing content. But you will say more about it. I will ask you please to introduce yourself so my audience can get to know you better, and then we will start our conversation. If is that okay?
Sure. This actually sounds more like a client meeting right now where I have to talk to you very frequently. But it was a fantastic time I had with you yesterday on the podcast. And it's great to exchange notes going from video of live streaming with you to audio of podcasting with me. It's a fantastic exchange of learning and knowledge. Thank you for having me on the show. So, for
My
everyone who
pleasure.
doesn't know, my name is Dakshin Adyanthaya, and I'm the founder and director of a digital marketing agency based out of Bombay called as the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. I also run a digital marketing training program for startups, entrepreneurs, working professionals, and students called as the Digital Brunch. Apart from that, I also have a podcast of my own, which is around 7 to 8 months old. It's called as the Deliberate Talks podcast, where I feature amazing people like Marco and different people from almost around 11 to 12 countries now, who come under one platform, and we all talk about digital marketing, entrepreneurship, evolved work and career goals, unconventional ideas. So that's pretty much what I do from a professional level. The days you don't see me in office, you will see me live streaming in such events or talking in such sessions. And on the weekends, I probably would be recording a lot more guests for my podcast. So that's how I live my life, and happy to be here. So please ask any questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them all for you.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Dakshin. The first question I had in mind while you were introducing yourself was, why audio content? Because I know, and I think I talked about this yesterday. I came to video because I had a need to get known, to get authority, and get trusted, and everything. And I think maybe you have in mind, you had in mind the same kind of things when you needed to start. But why audio? And yes, you can share also the reasons why you started with your contents, because sometimes there's some idea we didn't thought about it, and okay, that sounds good.
Right, absolutely. There are multiple reasons for an audio, and to be very honest, there's one part to it which a lot of people face, and this is a conversation I also had with you with regards to the fear of going live or the fear of going on video, right? So, before we kind of had the opportunity of an audio show of our own, a couple of years ago when audio was just booming in, and a few podcasters were there. People like me also, yet at that point of time, were kind of conscious yet to go live in front of people, right? It is a very interesting fact, because while you have confidence speaking in front of the camera, and it's not a confidence issue, but it's just the fact that what can you speak in front of the video? How are you going to be judged by people? Or probably there are hundreds of questions that come into your mind also from a fact, what do you do in a video? And if there's a habit of yours, like we were talking about, a lot of people have the habit of going hours, and and wondering, they start getting critical about their own appearances in video. I used to be that kind of a person, not that I'm still that person, but back then, if you ask me, that is something that as I speak to a lot of people, I do realize that that's a very conscious thing in everyone's mind, and hence a lot of people are not ready to go to video yet. That's not the only reason why podcast came into my life. Of course, podcast as an audio format is fantastic, and what I realized is that in the year 2020 onwards, or 2019, when Spotify came to India and other places like that, when more and more content, audio content platforms started rising, we did realize that there's a huge opportunity here. And this exactly is what blogging used to be back in 2010s and 11s and 12s, right? When suddenly everyone wanted to become a blogger, or suddenly everyone wanted to get into an Instagram and become an influencer, right? It's that phase where audio came into our life, and then you realize, okay, you don't sound that bad. That's one part of it, where you realize your voice is decent. Second thing is, this is self-learning is possible. The editing can be done by yourself. The recording can be done by yourself. You don't need a crew, unlike video, when you get into a professional level. So that is another aspect of it. The production value is, you can sit at home, you can record it on your bed, you can edit it on your laptop, and then publish it, right? It's as simple as that. Free platform, free content publishing tools, and then reaching out to a million people at the same time. Also, the advantage of taking it right now as it booms, so that you're at a very good stage to start with. By the time podcast reaches to a level where every other person is a podcaster tomorrow, is kind of, you're already experienced enough to evolve and start doing new things. So that's where the content part of audio came into the picture. But of course, audio content in itself is booming beyond podcasts. There are some audiograms which I do a lot. So audiograms are something which I do a 1 minuter on Instagram, convert it into a static. There's no face again put to it, but there are tips of 1 minuter audio videos, I say, which can be put up on the feed of Instagram or IGTV, which again serves my purpose of creating content and populating it over there. So these kind of things are evolving from a personal as well as professional part for me. Why I started podcasting, if you ask, it's a great opportunity, right? Because you can grow your business, you can grow your personal branding. There is a brand recall, there's a brand awareness part of it. There's also an opportunity to monetize and lead generation, opening up new avenues, meeting fantastic people from across the world, and then opening business avenues with them as well. So these are some of the reasons why I got into podcasting. But I think the main reason is because COVID, we all were at home, we had the lockdown, and there was a lot of time at home wondering what you could do. So why not take advantage and start recording as well? So my podcast actually started during the lockdown, and it's been no turning back since then.
Okay, perfect. I think it's amazing. It's amazing we can get just by starting something and being consistent. I think it's um, we already talked about this off and also on our recording yesterday, and I want to I have two questions, but okay, I will throw it and you answer as you want, as you wish.
Done. Sounds good.
The first one is the main advantage you see on audio content, okay, and also audio content. It's not just about podcasting, because there's this boom about podcasting, and I think I'm not this kind of people who say, "Oh, everybody is doing this, everybody is doing that," because first of all, it's not everybody. It's just a
Right.
few people. If
Right.
you look in the whole picture, you will see at the end only a few people are doing that, and not everybody.
Right.
And also there is always a place for you to, because okay, I don't want to be a singer because there are lots of singers there. It doesn't make
Right.
any sense. I don't want
Right.
to be a football player because already many football players. So the two questions, and you can blend the answer. It's up to you. Which advantages do you see on audio content, and also what types of audio content can we create?
Right. Just to answer that part of where you said, the universe of podcast is very small. You're rightly so, because currently there are only 17,50,000 podcasters, right? So that's like very small from the entire universe of people and the opportunity is huge, right? So when that kind of thing happens, uh, it, it's automatically an inspiration to say I can also get into podcasting. It's an opportunity. But the interesting part is every show has their own uniqueness. Everyone has a unique concept. Everyone has a different style of speaking. Everyone not necessarily will interview someone. They'll go for a individual storytelling podcasting as well. They have so much knowledge to share, right? At the end of the day, so there's room for everyone, of course. With respect to why audio content, how useful it could be, there are multiple ways of actually looking at it. If you look at it purely, I segregate it into two parts. One is from a creator's aspect and one is from a marketer's aspect. Now, for a creator, there's multiple opportunities there. They need to identify which platform do I need to be on, what kind of podcast or audio content should I create, and how can I make money out of it. Whereas from a marketer's point of view, it would be in terms of how can a podcast or audio content help my business grow? How can it help me generate more leads? How can it generate more revenue for me? So it's a segregation that way. Now, if you look at it from a marketer's point of view, normally you see the podcasts are either hosted by company owners or organizational leaders, or they would feature in others' podcast, which gives them an opportunity for a personal branding approach, which is absolutely important in today's digital world, right? So that's a business opportunity. The more you see a person on camera, on blogs, you read about them, on podcast, you hear about them, they're everywhere. It becomes an easy brand recall. Today, We all know Gary is a perfect example, right? Gary
Absolutely.
is everywhere on the internet, and that's primarily because he's been creating that content. He's been hustling with that kind of content, and there is no one day that you cannot see a content without Gary. So it's become that level of commitment of creating content or being a part of content where you're speaking in events or being a part of someone else's content even. From a lead generation and revenue point of view, of course, you can look at it with tying it closely with your business goals, focusing on what really is your objective. The most important thing is most people would actually start a podcast without a goal or an objective. And the objective could be as simple as having fun, which is okay. But what
Yeah,
happens is,
absolutely.
which is absolutely fine. But the only problem with that is in the long run, they're not motivated enough to stay long. You know,
Absolutely.
if there is a nice objective behind it, your objective could be as simple as reaching out to more people and interacting with them. But if it doesn't happen over the long run, you get demotivated, you stop creating content, which shouldn't be the case, but happens most of the times, right? So in this case, for a business or a marketer, it's very important to understand what your marketing goals are. What are you trying to achieve with having your own audio content or audio show of your own? So tomorrow, if you say that, like me, I want to reach out to different, my organization today works with clients in India and Singapore. Now, if I want to open my markets to the UK, to the US, to the Australians, I need guests from there who are thought leaders, experts, organizational heads, and I'm doing that. And with that's my motive. So when I reach out to them, it's a matter of hosting them and then reaching out to them post the show and saying, "Hey, do you have any business opportunities, or can we collaborate in such a way that it's fruitful for both of us?" That's my objective, and I have a clear understanding there. So, as a marketer, have a very clear goal, whether it's personal branding, lead generation, brand recall. From a creator's point of view, there's a very interesting opportunity of sponsorship, raising funds, monetizing this entire thing, and we'll get into that details more from that aspect of it, in terms of how we can monetize really various opportunities within audio content. But coming back to your second question in terms of what are the types of audio content, right? That's the most interesting part, because there's a perception saying audio means podcast, which is not necessarily true. I would segregate it into audio OTTs or music streaming, the music platforms and non-music platforms, where you're streaming content, audio content. Now, this could be music specific, like your Spotify's, your the Apple, iTunes and other places like that, or it could be as simple as an Amazon Audible, where you're talking about the non-music part of it, and you're talking about audio books, which also comes into the picture. So you got music, you got a podcast, you got audiobooks. You also have another interesting aspect under the audio content marketing, which is the music licensing part of it. So a lot of musicians today create their own jingles, music, they upload it online, and then they monetize it by actually selling it via portals like a Shutterstock or a Premium Beat or Audio Jungle and other places like that. So this all comes under audio content marketing. Of course, the more popular ones, the music fans have their own base, and then you have the podcasters and the audiobooks, which are into the place.
Absolutely, very, very good. I think that situation you mentioned last, because I think it's a huge opportunity for musicians also,
Right.
having this music, so this stock, so people can buy it, and even to work, because for instance, the other day I had Chris Stone. He's a guy who came also. He's working, and he was working with the music industry. And there's this oh my god, branded audio or something. I don't I forget every time the name, but that's
Right.
it. There are music created specifically for that brand, which is an amazing opportunity for people, for creators, to get another stream of money.
Right. Absolutely. Just to give you an example, Marco, I have a very international artist who a very international voice on my podcast introduction. So this is a voiceover from someone that I got recorded online. So I wanted a very nice intro beyond my voice, because there's 45 minutes of my voice anyway, and I wanted someone to introduce very differently and set the tone right for my podcast. And I got this recorded on an online portal where I put my script and I paid the money, and it was delivered in 2 days by a professional, voiceover artist with sound effects, with a perfect intro. And all this cost me somewhere around $50 to $100 to get things done. Now, look at the opportunity there. A person sitting in India got a voice recorded by a artist in UK who he probably never even spoke to and even didn't speak to while working. Got the script, wrote it professionally, got delivered in 2 days, and it sounds fantastic on my show. So that's the opportunity also from a voiceover artist, from jingle artists, from intro, outros, the sound effects. All this is a fantastic opportunity that makes a show better, more than just the host and the content that makes it better.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's truly important. And well, by the way, those of you who are watching the show, please let us know if you like to listen to podcasts, if you have your own podcast, if you are thinking about it. Let us know, please. What do you think about audio content? And I was thinking about something that I think it's very important, which is the beginning. And I see here, I think maybe three things we should think about it. One, it's the content. Okay. The second thing is technical things. Okay, microphone, software to record it, and everything. And the third thing, and I think this one is one of those who usually fails. It's the intention.
Right.
Because, for instance, I'm recording a podcast, but at the end, I'm giving a CTA to people to make.
Right.
Which for instance, which pain I'm solving with this podcast? Do I want to sell with this podcast? And I think this is something we should point very clear and highlight, because I think it's one of the things people usually miss.
Right. Right. So you're talking about the importance of a CTA within this thing, the intent behind the show.
Yes, or? I think it's that. Like, okay, what do I want? And I'm gonna mention someone I really love on LinkedIn, which is Alex B. Sheridan. I don't know if you know him, but if you don't, follow him. And he was saying how he builds their content, and he told, the thing I start with this: what do I want people are watching this will feel at the end, so they can do what I want them to do. So I have to, he builds the content backwards, So, okay, at the end, I want them to feel like this, to do this. And so he builds the content that way. So I think it's something you should have in mind, right, Dakshin?
Right. Absolutely. Going from the first phase of from the content part of it, and coming to the third part, I think they are the two most important aspects while planning in the very first stage. The equipment, of course, is the thing that you intend to ask people or get recommendations from. But the first and the third part, which you mentioned about the content and the intent, are both from a perspective of why are you doing it and how should you do it. Right. So let me get to the intent part of it. My intent was very simple when I started the podcast. That there's a clutter of podcasts which talk about entrepreneurship today and digital marketing today. There are so many people, right? And one part again goes to the conversation where we said there is a way of again talking it out. There is an opportunity also within that clutter, which a lot of people don't exploit. So to give you an example, a lot of podcasts there, which I asked people out there about entrepreneurship or digital marketing for that specific part, or even certain more, technical conversation there, people felt because they were too naive or they weren't exposed to that conversation, for them to understand the jargons and the other things within that became very difficult for them to last the podcast till the end. Which is very interesting, because if my users or my listeners are not going to understand what me and my guest are going to speak, why should they even stay till the end, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the reasons what I decided was the intent behind it was very simple, where though I know certain things that my guests speak, though I understand completely with 10 years of experience in digital marketing of what conversations I can directly have a conversation with my guest, I still dumb it down for my audience in a way where I'm the listener. As a host, I act as a listener, and I ask you those questions which my listeners would love to understand, right? So most of the times it's a learning habit in terms of, do I have a career opportunity? If I'm going to start my podcast, how do I go about it? What are the kind of equipments required? How much is the cost that's required? Who should I listen to? How should I market it? How can I reach X number of listeners? All these things I personally know, and it's an experience that I've done, but I would still ask my expert, because they're experts in this as well, right? And their information is more valuable to my listeners more than anything else. Or else I could do this all by myself, sit there in front of the camera and the mic and keep recording it. So what I did notice is a lot of people then start asking questions automatically. They would drop in the WhatsApp, they would, talk to me on Twitter, or they would drop in an Instagram DM. So whenever, like today, I asked about, yesterday when I said any questions about live stream, put up a question, people would DM to me, people would inbox to me saying, this is my question, right? So the intent is clear. They want to be a part of the show. They want to solve their queries as well. And it leads me back to the hook where saying, okay, your questions are answered by the expert, and it will be featured next month. So stay tuned, be a part of the conversation, and so on. Apart from that, the conversation also lasts beyond the podcast. So you need to have an intent where you can take your audience from the headphones to your smartphones and start
Absolutely.
talking to them after your show as well. So if you do manage to do that, then you have converted your listeners to potential followers, to potential customers or clients as well, depending on who you're talking to, right? So if that's your intent, then start putting in, opportunities for them to get in touch with you. It could be a shout out, it could be a giveaway, it could be I will feature you. Do you want to be a part of the show by being a guest speaker? Do you want to collaborate in any way? Do you want to sponsor the show? All those kind of opportunities kind of lead to another conversation. With regards to content, of course, the planning for me started with weekly content. So the main thing about podcast is be consistent. You need to show up at work every week or every fortnight or every month if you're talking about saying it's a weekly show. Mine is a weekly show. And I also give bonus episodes. So Monday, my full length episodes would go in, and Fridays I would record a 5 minute and put as bonus episodes. So in 6 months, instead of 26 episodes, I had 52 episodes. And with the second season on, that's what I'm kind of trying to do with lesser bonus episodes. But the intent is that every Monday my episode would be launched. Again, from a content planning perspective, I plan 6 episodes to 10 episodes in advance. So this is a pro tip for everyone who wants to start. Never start with 1 show or 2 shows of recording, unless you're doing it live, of course, because most of the podcasts, because they don't get speakers or because they don't have content, die by the 7th or the 8th episode. There is no intent to carry on because there is so much of demotivation saying I'm not getting a guest, I don't know what to speak, or I'm not getting enough followers. So when I started, I had my 6 to 10 episodes planned, six episodes recorded, and then I had 6 weeks to actually promote that content and speak to others. So even in the season 2, I'm already through recorded my guests till the end of March already. So that's the intent. It gets me more time to promote, speak to more people, show them the numbers, get more sponsorships, get new content, all those kind of things. These are the 2 aspects of planning, I would say. From an equipment or technical aspect of it, there is also a perception that audio content is really expensive because the mic, and I need fancy headphones, I need a fancy mic and all that stuff. If you are a beginner and if you are in a testing phase, I would recommend you to start with a platform like an Anchor, which is by Spotify, right? So Anchor is a mobile app where you can record your voice even using your smartphone. You can have the transcribes, you can do an artwork, you can publish it directly as a directory to other platforms as well. So if you're in your testing phase, don't spend too much on everything that you want to, and start with smaller with platforms which are free, tools which are free. yes, if you're dead sure that you're going to go ahead with this in form of 10 episodes or 15 episodes and finish season one, and then move on to season two with high production like I did, I invested in a Rode mic, I invested in a headphones, I have an Apple MacBook, and I edited on Adobe Audition. These were the only three things that I started. The only investment was the mic, which was expensive. The also primary reason, because if you're going for an audio content and if your quality of audio is not great, you're going to lose out on listeners. That's majorly why probably your listeners are going to bounce off in 40 seconds of your show because your voice is not clear. And like you said, Marco, it's all about, the beautiful thing about audio is you can go and cook and listen to a podcast. You can go in a
Absolutely.
train, you're commuting in a metro, you can listen to a podcast. You are going anywhere for a drive, you can listen to a podcast doesn't demand your attention like a video does in front of you or a
Absolutely.
book does in front of you.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
the only attention that audio really demands is your attention of quality. So unless your audio quality isn't great, you're not going to have your listeners attention. So just
It,
one part of it.
it's the same about video. The quality of the image may not be as good as usual, as standard.
Right.
But if the sound is not great, people will leave. That's it. It's audio. It's key. Even though video has this image importance, if I can say it this way, but audio is key because, for instance, I some people said to me, "I don't watch your videos. I listen to your videos."
Right.
So it's very important. And we have here a comment from Richard Ricardo. I'm thinking of recording a podcast about wedding photography for brides and grooms. It sounds very good.
Very interesting.
Very good. We will wait to see, to listen once you release the the podcast. Please, Ricardo, let us know.
Fantastic. Good luck with
Absolutely.
your podcast. Right.
Yeah, because I think one of the, and I think this is to every kind of content. One of the things people usually say, one of the main reasons people give to not creating content, it's I don't have time. And
Yeah.
usually I say one of the biggest advantages of creating content is that you will save time in other things like selling process, for instance, and everything. So, if you want to talk a little bit about this kind of savings you have by creating content and audio content, and also how can you reuse the content you create, for instance, a podcast. Uh, how can you reuse this content to other ways? Which, by the way, and we'll talk about this later.
Okay. Sorry, the first part of it you said in terms of saving time with regards to creating content. I didn't get the first part of it. Sorry.
uh, for instance, one of the things people usually mention, oh, I can't create content because I don't have time.
Right. Right.
And I said, look, one of the good things about creating content is that it can save you time, for instance, in selling process,
Right. Right.
in after selling situations. For instance, if you can answer a question made so many times on the customer service, you don't have to be answering again and again because you already have that question. People may find it on your website or YouTube, for instance, or you can send it to them. Look, the answer
Right.
is here.
Right. So, you can utilize this in such a way also from a very interesting aspect of it, Marco. I'll tell you, there are two websites where I take questions for my guest. And from a business aspect point of view, it's fantastic for all the listeners, especially someone who wants to start their own podcast. It's called as Also Asked and Ask the Public. Now, these are two platforms where you need to put in a keyword and you get generated the questions that people have asked on the internet for answers, are looking for answers on the internet, right? Now, if your question relates to how I can improve my marketing of my company, or how can I improve digital marketing, for example, if you put a keyword, what is digital marketing, or how can I improve? All those kind of things come as questions there, and then you can answer them on podcasts. It's a very interesting format on video anyway, where FAQs are converted into video FAQs these days, right? So your website FAQs are now converted into video FAQs, where you have the sales head or someone actually answering those questions for you. It's then embedded on your website. It's then sent to your distributors, or the sales channel on WhatsApp. You can convert it into various formats. The beautiful part about audio is it can be embedded elsewhere. It doesn't take as much a space as a video would. You can send it to multiple people across multiple channels. So one aspect of that is, obviously, if you're talking about what you can do from a business aspect, you can do a lot of aspects from an audio, where you can create FAQs, you can create press releases, you can create about what your company is all about. You can do a sales pitch technically on audio, and then send it to relevant people using WhatsApp marketing or various aspects of marketing again. Uh, that's one part of it. The repurposing part of it, if you talk about it, there are multiple ways you can repurpose, and I use that personally from a social media aspect of it as well. Each platform respects its own way, with very interesting formats where you can repurpose. Let me give you an example of Instagram. On Instagram, you can convert your podcast into an audiogram, which I do a lot, and convert it into an IGTV of a 3 minutes or a 5 minute. And I all I have to do is put a static image, my audio embedded on it, and then it plays like a video for 5 minutes. So to do that as well, I use two tools. One is creating the artwork on Canva or on Photoshop, wherever you use your design tools, and then getting on to veedstudio.io, veed.io. It's called Veed Studio, and Veed Studio is a fantastic place where you can add in your waveforms, your subtitles, your progress bars, to tell your audience how your audio is converted into a video. So I use those kind of audiograms into IGTV. I also make a 15-second story on Instagram. I convert it into reels. I can put it on feed. I can send it on DM. I can do multiple things there in terms of just Instagram. Now, if I have to look at it from LinkedIn, where I have to be a little more professional, I can convert it into a video. I convert all my podcast into video, put it up on YouTube with subtitles, because there are certain people who love going to YouTube rather than plugging on their smartphones and keeping, listening to a long time. Instead, on the desktop, on YouTube, they would prefer listening to the entire show. YouTube is working fantastic for me, even from a podcast point of view or an audio content format. Imagine watching a video which is not moving for 40 minutes and you're just listening to the content. I mean, that's an opportunity, but you would never think that it would work for you great on a platform like YouTube. Now, for YouTube, I can convert that now, but for LinkedIn, I use that video on LinkedIn feed. I also convert it into blogs with transcriptions. So I transcribe my entire podcast into text. So it's on real-time transcriptions, convert it into a blog, put it up on website, add keywords, becomes SEO friendly for me and an opportunity to optimize my keywords there. Then on LinkedIn, I also convert it into infographics. So take the highlights of the audio content and put it up in a very visual design, nicely designed way, and say, this is the highlight of it. Listen to the entire show. Here's the link to it. So you have so many ways you can actually do that, with Clubhouse coming in, with Twitter Spaces coming in, with audio tweets happening on Twitter. There again, you have a huge opportunity in that form very differently. You can create lists. You can use the DMs. You can go on Twitter chats. You can convert them into tweets. You can do multiple things there, and that's how get an audience from different platforms all the way to one place and increase your listeners there.
Absolutely. I think you gave so many solutions and ideas to our audience, and even for me, which are amazing. And I think it's also important to, you already mentioned about it, but I think we can go a little bit deeper about, because and we talked about this before the show started. Usually people think that content is something you give for free.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I think we should have two things in mind. First, okay, sometimes you are giving something for free, but you have in mind that someday this will bring return by someone who engaged with that content, uh, trusted you, get confident enough, and buy from you. Okay, that's fine. But the other thing is that you can make money with your audio content, for instance. Can you share, and for you can give, if you don't have to talk about numbers, but you can say how you get your content, audio content monetized. And if you want to bring some other examples you may know to the table, this will be great.
Right. So, firstly, you need to decide in terms of how much of your content is free and how much of your content can be freemium. You can lure your audience by giving them free content and then driving them to say you want to listen more. This is the teaser, the full episodes, or more content, more customized for you at this link, or take them to a separate private kind of a space where you can interact with them. Content, of course, a very interesting way to put it is there's so much of content on the internet. You don't really people can get all sorts of content for free today using YouTube, Google, or any other space. What really is valuable is your credibility and your value that you're adding with your show. Now, if I'm just going to talk about what is digital marketing, that's available on Google and 100 other places or 1,000 other places where people can just Google and get the answers. But if I'm actually going to add value to that and let my experts speak in and also talk about their real life case studies or client success stories, which they've converted, with like how you asked in terms of saying how do you monetize it, and have you added it, don't need to put the numbers in, but if I can share that value, that becomes the credible value that my content would bring in, and that's monetizable more than anything else. People want to listen to real life case studies, real life experiences, rather than just the ones which are available for free, right? Interesting aspect of it is if you're confident about your content, there are multiple ways to monetize it. If you're a podcast, as simple as it, with increasing listenership, you can increase your sponsorship. So you can add in brand jingles, you can get a sponsor to say the sponsor presents your podcast. All those kind of things are easy way and the most known way for people to actually monetize. So they would wait till they reach 50,000 listeners or 1 lakh listeners per month and then start approaching brands saying, hey, do you want to be a part of this? My first 3 months or my package of sponsorship is this. These many shout outs you would get on social media. This would be the package that I would offer you in terms of sponsorship and all those kind of deals. That's between you and the company, right? The other way of looking at it is purely from a creator's perspective. Is I love this platform called as Buy Me a Coffee. It's called
Yes.
buymeacoffee.com. And I talk about it a lot because it's a fantastic platform for creators where they can actually, fundraising for creators. It's a fundraising platform for creators where the creators can ask for provide exclusive content and ask for a membership fee. So what they would do is typically you can target between $2 to $10 a month as a subscription fees. Ask your people to buy you a coffee of $2 or $10. That's the whole concept. And in return, in the entire month, you would exclusively provide content only to those subscribers. So what happens is if you're creating an audio content, maybe music, if it could be free music, free jingles, free intros, outros, it could be stock music, it could be podcast, it could be audiobooks or a new story in form of an audio, or a musician can actually say, I'm going to get out a new single music, and you're going to get the exclusive preview of it for being a member of mine. You can put all those kind of terms. So imagine making $5 a month for 12 months, and you have 1,000 people becoming your subscribers or your membership. You can keep populating it on social media and getting more and more subscribers and members. Or you can actually go for an annual membership where you can place it for $50, $100, or $150, and then give added benefits. Like I would give you a shout out on my show. I can do a Zoom meeting with you. I could give you a one-on-one consultation. I can help your business grow. I can set up a podcast studio for your business and tell you the kind of things that you need to do for getting it right. All those kind of things. So it's a fantastic fundraising creators platform, which I think not many people know about, or is very popular in one particular part of the world, but everyone needs to kind of be exposed to this. The other one is, I think it's called a Supercast, if I'm not wrong. I think it's called, yeah, Supercast. Supercast is again a platform for podcasters, where basically they invite you to get more people to actually make your, pay for your content. And the more and more they have, like, they used to have like contest and big prizes, where if you were the one who got maximum membership amount for your podcast show, they would give you the audio studios as gifts. They would give you cash rewards. They would give you featured in various shows, and those kind of big giveaways, which is kind of very motivating for audio creators, or creators for that fact. So primarily these two are the platforms, I would say, and there are many like these where you can go and ask for a subscription fees and give them exclusive content.
Perfect. I think you gave so many clues so people can monetize. And as you said, I think we should not always think about the money in the short term. Otherwise, this could go wrong.
Absolutely.
But if you think, okay, let me build something which people want to listen, and also which people find value, to build a good community with people engaged, and then let's see. Because I think, I don't know about you, and you can share your experience. When I started with this, I didn't have in mind everything I will get after this. Well, my regular show started about 3 years ago, and I didn't have in mind how many things I will get from this. And you?
I didn't get that part. Sorry, Marco.
For instance, um, some things, when we start with content, or with our ideas, or projects, we have in mind, okay, I will get more trust, I will get maybe clients, I will get this and this. Okay, I have clear, and hopefully these things will happen.
Yeah.
Okay. But then there are so many opportunities that show up, and you didn't thought at the beginning that this could happen to you. For
Right.
instance, if you asked me when I started 3 years ago that I will be interviewing people which are bestsellers in Amazon, I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're out of your mind." If
Right.
you said to me, "Okay, some brands will approach you for you to work with them," I will say,
Right.
"Okay, no, you're laughing."
Right. True, and that does happen, Marco. Because I'll tell you why. Because this is a similar conversation I had with one of my guests, and his episode is due to go on this Monday. And what I realized is he's a music artist, and the first question that I was actually asking him, saying, I used to watch you on TV 20 years back, doing your music shows and coming in music albums. I wouldn't have thought 20 years later I would be interviewing you on a podcast show. So it's kind of, you can't really predict what's going to be in place, right? But one part of it is, as you grow, it's not there are endless possibilities in terms of achieving, not just from the monetary part of it, but also from the possibilities that come to you. Like, for example, you do realize that once your capabilities are more, where your listeners are coming in and increasing, the value goes up of your show, sponsors come from ahead to you and say, I want to be a part of your show. That is something you might have not predicted, saying, okay, you know what, I don't know if I will reach a milestone of 5,000 listeners per episode or per month, or now 1 lakh listeners per month, kind of a milestone. When you start achieving those milestones, you start surprising yourself. But that's also a power, because of consistent content, the possibilities are endless, and it keeps growing for you. So that's why we keep saying, don't stop. Once you the most important aspect is, most creators also have this habit where once they achieve a milestone, they don't know what to do next. They don't have a goal to say, what is my next goal, because they're not planning it, right? But the basic there is to keep continuing no matter what. So the only place where you start planning is today. If you have 1 lakh followers or 1 lakh listeners consistently, and after a couple of months you start seeing that 1 lakh is becoming lesser, that's when you need to start planning in terms of saying, how do I increase my listenership or those kind of things. If it's growing every month, that's a good problem to have. So then you can start thinking about, can I now start inviting celebrities onto my show? Do you think they will come in? Would they be interested in promoting their films? So this is an example, like how you went from booksellers and Amazon to now pitching in saying a Gary Vee coming onto your show, because now you have double the listeners coming onto your show, right? So can I go to Gary and say, hey, my podcast is this many listeners, I've grown in this rate, I'm one of the top in the charts of Spotify or other places, would you be interested in coming, right? So the possibilities are endless, Marco, provided you're consistent and you keep growing there.
Absolutely. And that's one thing. For instance, I don't have a huge, not at all, audience, but I usually I get interesting guests because they see what I do and how
Right.
I do, and I say, okay, I think I will have fun. I want to join just because of that.
Right.
And I
Absolutely.
think it's also important. Sometimes we see so many people talking about numbers, metrics, and everything, but there's also this human part of things that you should have in mind. And when we are talking about video and audio, this is crucial for me.
Right. No,
Don't
you're
you think?
absolutely right. In fact, from a listener's point of view, of course, these are matrix that we have put in, to be very honest, because that becomes a deciding factor, right? So for creators, the problem is when we see someone on Instagram with 10,000 followers, we want 10,000 followers. Now, if we don't get 10,000 followers, we believe we are not good, and then we stop
Absolutely.
being a part of that content process. The moment we stop thinking about that 10,000 followers and say, I'm going to be on Instagram to have fun, I'll put whatever I want. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about the, people commenting. I'm just going to be putting out content there because I love doing that. I love showing what, or telling a story, or even from the podcast point of view, I would love sharing knowledge. I would love sharing, getting more guests, speak to them. This is like me speaking to Marco right now and not thinking about my listeners and guests, because I love listening to Marco and I'm learning something new from Marco. And likewise, Marco is doing with me as well. So
Absolutely.
if I'm enjoying that process, every other number is invalid. Every other aspect of listenership and everything else is invalid. And that's the intent. If that's the intent, go for it, have fun.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's crucial. And we talk about guests, and I think it's also because sometimes it's very difficult. I think it's one step you should take. For me, I think it's very important to bring guests,
Right.
but I think it's not easy to give that step
Yep.
because we are afraid of so many things. And what if he or she doesn't accept? And what if? My question is, how do you uh, select your guests? Okay, and then how do you approach them? Because
Right.
there are two different steps.
Right. So the selection part of it is very interesting because uh, there are certain things that I want to learn. Now, for example, uh, a mattress tester, a person who needs to test a mattress, whether it's comfortable for the customers, and on job they're supposed to sleep on it for 6 hours, right? That's a wonderful job to listen to, right?
Absolutely.
Now imagine someone doing that in real life. I would love to understand the process of what goes in their work, because you're allowed to sleep at work and you're supposed to report saying how good your sleep was at work. I would love to speak to those kind of people on my show and tell the world their story, to talk about saying, hey, this is what goes in this. And they also work. It's not that they're just sleeping. And, there's a huge demand for it as a career across the world. And I have a live example as a guest. Now, these kind of people are normally, I Google them, I find out interesting stories via friends on Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter and LinkedIn are two best platforms for actually finding stories and guests, according to me. But so once I identify a unique story, I go to multiple websites or multiple people who are into that profession, and then I either send them a LinkedIn request, I email them, or I connect with them on Twitter. Now, you rightly said finding guests is a pain because you write to 100 of them, only or six of them might respond. The others might not respond, also because they either must have never done a podcast, or they're very conscious about the fact that they have to fluently speak, or what if they mess up and all those kind of things, which I give them
Absolutely.
points to. They've Most times they've not featured in a podcast. Now, if you tell them that it's an interview or a written conversation, they would jump into the opportunity because it's text. They have to just fill in, or someone can write on behalf of them and they can publish it. But podcast and video, people are kind of skeptical still to be a part of such conversations. But one interesting individual who I met was during this process was James Mulvani on LinkedIn. You should connect with James. He's a fantastic person. He runs this platform called podcast.co. It's again a podcast hosting platform for all those people who want to have their own hosting place for their shows. Now, James has another product which is very interesting called as Matchmaker.fm. On Matchmaker, the beautiful part about it is you can put in your profile, you can look for guests, as well as you can be a part of the guest. So you have thousands of people who are already guests there, and they are more active than LinkedIn and Twitter because they also want to feature in and they also want to feature you. So you write to them on matchmaker.fm, and then you start connecting there over DM. I found out of at least my 35 odd episodes which I've planned, I've at least got 5 to 10 of them from Matchmaker, simply because I plan my other guests, but when I need a guest and I need to fill my slots, I go to matchmaker.fm. Also, you can select your guests basis the topic. So there are certain people from entrepreneurship, there are certain people from health and wellness, there are certain people from sports, video, all those categories. So you choose what kind of guest you want. So fantastic place, must try. On LinkedIn, just write to them on DM. On Twitter, just tweet out to them and hope, or go to the website, pick in the email ID and write, and pray that people would get back to you. But that's a process, right?
Perfect, perfect. You made my day. Just if it was another, if the interview started right now,
Right.
you just made my day by sharing this this link. Because yeah, it's very good, because I think I don't know about you, but I'm very intentional with the guests I like to bring, and one of the things, one of the items I is on my checklist is if they also have their own show, because it's a possibility for you to join them.
Right.
Hopefully.
Promotion. Right. Right.
So I think it's a kind of win-win strategy. So why not?
Absolutely.
Right.
True. Right.
I have to ask you, because I think it's sometimes people face this as a problem, sometimes they face this as a challenge, sometimes they face this I don't care. Which is, both of us, we are not English native speakers, I think, right?
Right. Right.
And I think maybe some people in our audience are afraid of this, because they get invitations from people which speak other languages, or they don't want to mess up with, because I've seen people which gave me this excuse: oh, Marco, I would love to join, but well, some of them, I don't speak Portuguese, and I say, don't worry, because it will be in English or in Spanish, for instance.
Right.
But I'm aware that my English is not perfect. I think I know, and sometimes you can get that stopped, because okay, I'm afraid of what people may say about my accent, about how do I speak. First of all, did you thought too much about this? And if someone arrives and points you, okay, your English is not that good or something, how do you manage that?
Well, see, consciously, when you're speaking, there are a couple of things that you don't realize. One is because you're speaking so fast or in that fluency, you don't realize whether grammatically you're sounding right or wrong. You're just speaking. As far as the person in front of you understands what you're speaking, your objective is met, right? So,
Absolutely, absolutely,
so just like the habits that we were speaking in terms of saying, do I use a lot of hand movements? Do we go hours or whatever? It's a part of the conversation, right? Once you're in the flow and enjoying yourself talking to the person, as far as he or she doesn't, I mean, understands that part, it's perfectly fine. When someone points it out, yes, you get a little conscious, and a lot of people do get conscious about it. In fact, my guests, after listening to the recording once it goes live, they come back to me and say, "Oh, you know what? I think I should get my grammar right, or I should my this should be right." And there's an answer to it where we typically say, "It's okay, it's gone, it's live right now.
absolutely,
What
absolutely,
can you do about
absolutely,
it?" Right? What
absolutely,
you can do about it is improve it. So the best part about it is, if you're aware about it, it's great, which means you're going to learn about it and you're going to improve on that. If you don't
absolutely,
realize it, it's also great, which means you're going to continue speaking and enjoying your show. So the part where people will criticize, now it's not just language, it's also the content at times, or it could be the
absolutely,
guest or the host. People would just
absolutely.
be rude. Social media is a rude place. People
Yeah,
would just put in,
it's very easy to be there and criticize whatever when you're doing
right,
nothing.
right, absolutely. So unless you're in that process, it's very easy to say, oh, you know what, your content is rubbish, which is fine. That's a feedback taken, but I don't take that feedback seriously because it comes from someone who's not a keen listener of podcast or my show, or is not creating the content himself or herself, right? So as far as you know how to filter that process, where you know where to take the feedback from, that's perfectly fine. You're doing well. You don't need to be conscious about it. Yes, if tomorrow a very well-known podcaster comes and says, hey, I got a couple of tips for you, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, note it. It's someone who's trying to help you out and help
Absolutely,
you grow. So kind of take that in a very positive way, and it's up to you whether you want to incorporate it or not. But yeah, that's rest up to you. Just enjoy the show.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I had something in mind also, and you talked about this some minutes ago, and I want to bring this question. Just we are about to finish because there we sometimes we have this problem. We are so in deep the things we deal with that everything, and then we have these big references, big experts, which we think about them when, for instance, when we are creating content and everything. But the problem is we are not talking to them, and we are not even talking to people like us. And sometimes we think, oh, this is so basic. Oh my God, I won't, I don't like to, what people, what my colleagues, my professional colleagues will think about this. This is so basic. But this is a problem because you should not think about them. You should think about people who have the problem you are solving. And most of
Right.
them, as you mentioned, and that's why I think about this. Sometimes we go in those funny words, techie words, just which just us understand, and
Right.
people are there who may be our customer. They go away because they don't understand what we are saying.
Right.
Do you have this in mind?
Yes, of course. And this goes back to the conversation where I said, when I host the show, I dumb down the content because I don't want, I'm trying to teach everyone, and I'm trying to be the listener myself. If I know everything, there's no point, because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anyone else, right? And if you're going to be conscious about what others, it's okay to create your own terms. You can have fun with your content, your script. You can do that part, but it's very important to understand, say someone sitting in a different part of the world wants to learn from you but doesn't get what you're trying to say. It makes no sense then having that kind of conversation, because then who are you creating the content for? If your objective, of course, is to educate others or help your
Absolutely,
listeners learn about it, right? And same goes with my guest also, because there are certain times where there are certain jargons which my guests don't, my guests speak, because that's the corporate tone that they normally have a conversation with all the business leaders and their investors and stakeholders, but that not necessarily are the words that my listeners would understand. So me would still get into that face and say, hey, can you break down this word and tell me a little bit more about what this is during the show?
Mhm.
And that's perfectly fine if I'm taken in that route where my guest thinks, oh, he doesn't know this word.
Ah.
That's fine. That's fine, because here my main intent is about those 20,000 odd listeners who are going to be listening to the show, and them not bouncing off within listening to that word, getting scared and saying, I didn't get what they're saying, or this conversation is not for me, let me bounce off. So for me, it's very important from that perspective to think like a listener rather than think like a host or a thought leader in that space. So you're right about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just just to add the something an example. The other day I was looking for a tutorial about I don't know if you know this tool, DaVinci Resolve.
Mhm.
It has an option, a feature to help you to make animations. And I was looking on YouTube a tutorial about doing something, and I found a tutorial which was like for 3 years old kids, and I felt so good because he was telling things so slowly,
Right.
so clear. Oh, now you should do this and this, but he was speaking slowly, you know. And I say, oh my God, this is so good because I don't understand anything about this. So you're helping me, and that's the point. Because sometimes we have this temptation. Oh, what this guy, which is, for instance, my competitor, my colleague, or something, will think about this. Doesn't matter because he won't buy you things because
Right.
he does the same as you.
Right. Absolutely. Another incident where I can think of a guest that I recently hosted, and there's a question in my rapid fire round which I asked in terms of saying, teach me three words from your profession which I should learn or I should know. And this was related to e-commerce marketing. Uh, and guess the three words that he actually taught me. He said profit, margin, and sales. He's like, I don't need to teach you anything else, because these are the main aspects that you should know if you're running a business at the end of the day. I don't need to get into the marketing concepts and try to tell you my technical terms, because that's not going to make sense to your listeners. In fact,
Absolutely.
profit, margin, and sales are the most important thing that you should know about e-commerce marketing. So that's a very fantastic way of putting it, right? He understands the
Absolutely.
fact that there's no point. Who are you trying to talk to? Who are you trying to brag these words to? Keep it simple. Your listeners will respect that part, and listen to you a little more from that aspect.
Absolutely. That's for me. And sometimes it is a struggle. It is a struggle because I tend to be a little philosophical. Something. But yes, but I'm trying to be more basic, and trying to have in mind 3, 4, 5 year old people, boy or girl, so them will understand what I'm talking about. I think it's very important to
But
have this in mind.
regardless, I think the vibe that you have as a host, and that smiling face anyway takes away all the worries and the stress for everyone listening to you or the host. So that's a great vibe to have as a host as well as a guest. So
Perfect,
keep
perfect.
smiling, Marco.
Thank you so much. Well, you even though I didn't saw you, you also were laughing yesterday. So
Right,
it's good.
that's
It's
that's
it's
true,
good.
Marco. I think that's
Like we and we see this all the time. So uh, I, I'm giving you an example. There's a Spanish comedian who says, I won't tell you. I will show you." For instance, you someone asked me, "Oh, tell me a good thing to do while we are live, so people will get watching your show." Oh, you should laugh all the time. It's very important to have a smiley face, and you like that. It's anyone. What's the For instance, yesterday I saw an article for someone the article was a blog article. How you can have more followers on Instagram. And I say, okay, let me see how many followers do you have on Instagram. And I say, okay, right. And the other, how you can get more engagement on your Instagram posts. And I went and that post got 10 likes, for instance. And I say, oh, well.
Nice.
So I think it's also a thing we should have in mind when we are talking about content, even though it's audio or everything.
Right.
Don't talk about something you can't prove you're doing. For
Right.
instance, I see people, and I think maybe you also have seen this kind of people, how you can build an amazing podcast and they don't even have a podcast.
Right.
Don't you think that it's and sometimes it's tempting to speak about something. For instance, I'm here talking. Okay, today I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk about why you should be on Clubhouse, and
And you
I'm
don't
not
have
on Clubhouse.
and you don't have an iPhone.
No, so I don't see. I think it's also important. Don't you think, Dakshin, that it's important when we want to, even though it could be tempting to talk about something which is trendy, which is something hot. We should not fall in this temptation of talking about something we can't have a proof that we are doing this or that we are good on this.
Right. It is because I'm not looking at it from. I don't feel bad for the creator for doing it because they're there to make money. They have their own intentions in terms of reading through or talking through and creating that content. I feel bad for the consumers who actually pay for that course or pay for that article or pay for that program, and then they try to learn from them. The whole process should actually be where everyone today can create multiple courses and put online. They really don't need
Absolutely.
to have a credibility to it. It's not just them. It's everyone in the world today. They learn something, they would put it as a program. Now s- consumers need to be smarter rather than those who are actually putting it and trying to create monetizing opportunities for themselves, which is fine. They're just creators, let them do that. From a consumer point of view, if you are smart enough, of course, research about it. Do you want to indulge their content, or like you mentioned, go back to that person where you researched and said, do you have a podcast? Do you what where is this expertise coming from? The better way of actually doing it is go and identify your favorite podcaster and then just send them an email, a DM, or connect with them on LinkedIn and say, can you recommend me courses, or do you recommend this article, or do you have any study materials or anything where I can learn from this whole process? That's a smarter consumer rather than, oh, that's a great course. It's only $1 or $2, which is very cheap. Let me go for it. Don't be that consumer because
Right.
everyone's here to make money. Fair enough. They have their own intentions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we are almost finishing. So before jumping into the guest suggestion section, how would you wrap all this conversation about 3 to 4 advices for people who want to start this audio content journey?
Right. Uh, I think people should just embrace audio as a content format. Firstly, that acceptance of audio as a content format needs to come very strongly because uh, it's a beautiful content format. Now, with increasing platforms like Twitter, Clubhouse, and also more and more music platforms, streaming platforms coming in, this is just a booming growth, booming industry. So this is where you need to invest in terms of marketing as well as from a creator's perspective. Don't invest on heavy tools and equipments yet. Be sure about it, be consistent, have a script in place, especially when you're interviewing someone. Have a nice format of a show. My show typically has 8 to 9 questions followed by a rapid fire round, followed by a question from the internet or someone from Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram. So this is combined as my structure show. Again, keep keep analyzing your performance. Of course, numbers is not your deciding factors, but just keep improving in terms of if your goal is to get more and more listeners or reach to a wider audience. Analytics is a very important aspect of it. Identify how many people are actually completely listening to your audio content, where people are dropping off, what is it that can hold their interest longer. Create shorter formats of your podcast episodes, put it up on social media platforms as audiograms or as videos, and connect and collaborate with people like Marco on LinkedIn, who can bring in a value for your podcast as well as feature you on his show. So the collaborate with creators and bring value to your listeners. That's pretty much what I want to summon on audio
Absolutely
content.
good. Absolutely good. Absolutely. Very well done. Very well done. So, Dakshin, let's jump in the guest suggestions section. Be afraid.
Okay.
So, in this section, I will ask you, and don't be afraid. I will
Okay.
ask a suggestion to a professional. You recommend a book, a tool you use, a habit you have, and this habit should be legal and healthy.
Right.
A movie and a TV show. Okay,
Wow. That,
can we can
okay.
we start?
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
I will remind you. A professional shout out.
A professional shout out. A lot of them on Twitter. A lot of them on Instagram. Can I name a few rather than one?
Okay, 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 okay.
Okay, on Twitter, I have a lot of people who I connect personally with, but there are some fantastic people who I've hosted, like Madeline Sklar. There is Maiko Sakai. There is Christina Garnett. There is Jake, who's called as the research geek. There is Joma. These are all the guests who have come onto my show. On Instagram, some wonderful people, but primarily Diana gets social. She's fantastic. I love her content, and people should learn the hacks of Instagram from her. The other guests who have had some fantastic, stories to tell, especially the ones who I've featured. Uh, there are many of them, but I think Joma has a beautiful story to tell from a social impact point of view. He runs Mumbai Smiles. There is Suneha Jagannathan, who's doing fantastic stuff from a marine conservation point of view. I enjoyed her show from a story perspective as well. So these are certain people from LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter that you guys have to follow.
Perfect. I think some names are very easy very hard to remind. So if you, after the show ends, if you can write it down in the
I'll do
comments,
that.
I will appreciate Dakshin.
I'll do
And
that.
a book.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts more than the books. But if I have to get into because I'm more into audio formats of
Okay.
content. But if you're asking me a podcast instead of a book, I would say Seth Godin's podcast. That would be definitely something to spend time on in terms of his
Akimbo.
stories. And also from a podcast point of view, Gary Vee show and a few other marketing ones. Books, I don't read much, but purely from a point of view, I hear a lot of more content.
Okay, perfect. I think well, by the way, both of them have amazing books. So well done. Now
Absolutely.
a tool.
A tool I love. Okay, there are many tools actually, but like I mentioned, Weed Studio is a fantastic tool. I use that a lot for my podcast as well. Canva is a fantastic tool from a design aspect point of view. For video editing, I use InShots. They're a great tool, easy on mobile apps. These are three primary tools, but from a scheduling tool, and you have Trello's. At the organization, we use Asana. From a project management perspective, there are various other tools that we use for scheduling and for editing part of it.
Perfect, perfect. A habit.
A good habit, right?
Yes, yes.
I have this habit of the first half an hour when I wake up. I have a habit of listening to Blinkist. Blinkist is again a audio platform, has fantastic marketing or professional content, which is it's an expensive tool. Its subscription is not easy. It's an expensive tool, but it's a fantastic place to be at and spend your first 20 minutes to 30 minutes of your day. You get to hear Seth Godin's 2 minute storytelling formats as well. It's a fantastic way to start your day. So I have that habit. I also have another habit in the night to play the brain development games called as Lumosity, which is very interesting. Again, it has multiple habits like increasing your concentration, your focus. It's actually gamifying your entire process of developing your brain. Lumosity is the name. It's a fantastic app again. So these are the two habits that I normally have.
Perfect, 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 perfect. And now a movie.
A movie. Okay, this is
Yes.
interesting because so again, synonymous to Indian cinema, Bollywood is, people term Indian cinema and know Bollywood as a more important aspect, but there are some fantastic regional films, cinemas in India itself. And I have a habit of seeing a lot of Tamil, Malayalam films, which is southern part of India, and they have some beautiful storytelling formats. So the inspiration from movies, actually, I spend a lot of time consuming regional content. The regional films I watch more than any, including English and Hindi. Apart from, I don't consume as much content of these two languages compared to regional languages. In regional, there are more than around 30, 40 recommendations, but trust me, from a storytelling format point of view, beautiful cinemas, beautiful inspirations there.
Okay, perfect. And now a TV show.
TV shows. I don't watch too many TV shows, unfortunately. But if I do watch, I watch the likes of Shark Tank and the other ones.
Okay.
Again, professional related. I'm a boring person that way, but yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dakshin. The last question is, how can people find you on internet?
Superb. I'm available on easily accessible on LinkedIn. I love having conversations on LinkedIn and Twitter. On Twitter, my handle is Upside Dakshin, like upside down, Upside Dakshin. LinkedIn, Dakshin Adyanthaya. On Instagram, also is similar. Apart from that, my company handle Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures has their own YouTube channel where I upload all my podcast. My podcast is called Deliberate Talks. It's on all audio platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, and various such platforms. So most accessible on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Perfect, perfect. Well, we came to an end.
Wow, look at it.
Thank you so.
That's almost 1 hour 20 minutes. That's almost 80 minutes having a conversation with you, and we can go on, right? It's as seamless as that. And I think that's because of you, because you are a fantastic host. You are a fantastic person, and
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for having me on the show. This is a great show. I love watching it every time you're live. So thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
having me. And
Thank you
and
so much.
I had a lot of fun, Marco. Honestly,
Absolutely perfect, perfect. But I had it also yesterday, so I had to pay it back.
awesome, great, Marco.
thank, thank you so much, Dakshin, and thank you for those of you who are watching the show. Please, if you have any question, any doubt, please write it down on comments so we can answer you. If you want Dakshin to answer, please tag him so he can get the notification about the question. And also, if you know someone who may be interested on this content, share it with them and or tag him on comments or her so he can watch this live show, even though it will be recorded. But that's it. And if you have any suggestion, any guest you should want to have here, just write it down on comments. And next Monday at 3 p.m. GMT time, I will have here Making Tsang which will talk about FOMO, fear of missing out, how you can create this on your live shows, on your live events. This will be also an amazing conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay,
She's
so
fantastic, in fact, Marco.
absolutely,
She is. Absolutely. Well
absolutely,
done.
absolutely.
Well done, Marco. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you.
Thank you, Dakshin. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you. So see you very soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.